We're here today to help you with how to be a better parent. 3 things you can do right now. Hi, we're Paul and Vicki Jenkins. We've got 3 surprisingly simple steps that you can take right now to become a better parent. The first one might surprise you, and then we've got 2 really practical steps to follow.
Recognize that you are already doing a good job as a parent.
In fact, I had a little resistance to titling this video the way that we did because we're not really here to help you be a better parent. I think we want you to be a more confident parent. You're already doing a good job. Actually, you know what? Let's just spend a moment on that. Listen to me. Listen to Vicki. We are experienced parents. I'm also a child and family psychologist. Vicki has worked with kids and parents.
I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of children.
So listen to us. You are a good parent.
You know, the fact that you're asking the question, you're trying to figure out how to be a better parent, tells us a lot about you. You care. You want to show up in a way that is intentional for your child and help them become the best whoever and whatever they're going to be.
In some of our coaching programs, we teach that our circumstances are neutral, and then we have thoughts. Our thoughts are not neutral. Our thoughts affect how we feel, and then how we feel affects how we show up. So test that for just a minute. When you're thinking, oh, I'm a terrible parent, how does that feel? And when you're feeling that way, how do you show up for your kids?
Right.
We're making it worse, right? Now, go back to where we started. You're a good parent. As a PhD psychologist, I'm telling you, the fact that you're here, everything that I already know about you tells me, yeah, you're a good parent. Could you be better? Well, when is that going to stop being true?
Right.
Right? So I'm not denying that you could make improvements. That's probably the case. But just settle in on that. I'm a good parent. How does that feel? And from that feeling, how are you going to show up for your kids? This is an important responsibility for you to start thinking more kindly about yourself. It puts you in a better position to serve your kids.
Take some time to learn the basics about moral development and control. You know, we don't get a lot of formal training to be a parent. We kind of watch what other people have done. We hear little things. We decide that we're going to do things different. So it's really important to understand some of the very basics about moral development and control. And we've made that easy for you.
The model that Vicki's referring to that we put together for you, you can get a PDF copy. In fact, download this right now. Go to drpauljenkins.com/stages. And we'll put this right in your inbox so that you'll have a visual reminder of what we're talking about here. Basically, the interplay between control and maturity. When our kids are born, how much control do they have over their own life?
They have very little control because they just haven't developed enough. They haven't got maturity yet, right?
Which is really obvious when we're talking about babies. Well, as they grow and get older, they typically take more control over their life. Parents are in a dilemma here because when we start out with our little kids, we're controlling absolutely every aspect of their life.
Pretty much.
Right? They can't even turn themselves over when they're first starting out. And so we get into this mode of controlling our kids. Well, as they get older, that starts to tick them off a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they want to control their life. And we should back off as parents as they become more mature.
But if you go to the model that we've offered you, go look at that because it's all about stage, not age. And so as the child grows and moves from one stage to the next stage in maturity, and sometimes goes back again and we go back and forth, that has to do with how much control they can have or get to take over in their life, the responsibility they're given.
Now, this understanding is key. In fact, this is the core curriculum that we teach in all of our parent training courses, all of our coaching programs. You have to understand the interplay between control and maturity because then that's going to determine what you need to do next as a parent.
One of the reasons it's so important to understand that interplay between maturity and control is because when you understand the way that they are responding puts them in a particular stage, it directly affects how we show up with our consequences, communication, and consultation, which is our third step.
Those are your 3 C words. Just
Yeah.
jot those down somewhere. When our kids are on stage 1, we have to use.
Consequences.
It's the only thing that works when a kid is on stage 1. That's their level of maturity. There's a special kind of consequences
Right.
too, because you don't get any cooperation at stage 1. You have to pick consequences that don't require cooperation.
And cooperation still bleeds into stage 2, but you have a lot more communication because they're cooperating.
Right. So the communication, this is when we engage them in the conversation. They're willing to communicate. They're not giving us defiance and opposition at every turn. So we can communicate with them. We're still using appropriate consequences, the kind that now do require cooperation. Well, talk about that consultation part, 'cause that was
That's
fun.
the fun one. That's when they're up in stage 3 and they are mature and they're taking responsibility for themselves, for their actions. They're taking initiative to do things that they know will bring about the best circumstance for themselves. And that is when you take the role of a consultant. You consult with them, you talk with them. It's usually in their upper ages, but remember it's about stage. So you can have nice consultation with a younger child too.
When they're taking responsibility for themselves and appropriate control over their own life, that's when they come to you. And they're like, well, Mom, what do you think about this? And you give them your sagely wisdom and advice, right? And then they, with appreciation, they're like, oh, thank you, Mom. That is so profound, right? And then they go home to their own 5 kids. Now, they can do it before they're adults, obviously, but this is a guideline for you. So as you understand the 3 stages, then you know what you get to do primarily as a parent, whether it's consequences, communication, or consultation.
Look, you're already a good parent. These steps may seem really simple, but they just take some practice. And as you
Right.
practice, you get better at them. Maya Angelou says something to the effect that when you know better, you do better. And that's really what we're sharing with you. I like to think about it as you already are a good parent, but you have the intent to always be the best parent you can be. And that's why you've joined us.
And thank you for joining us. We're honored to be on your team. Hopefully you found this helpful. Watch that next video and remember to get your copy of the stages, drpauljenkins.com/stages. We'll put this in your inbox.